who I am and what I do here. But I first would like to ask Shannon Wright, the Regional Director of FWC, to officially open the meeting.
Thank you, Karen. Folks, I want to introduce myself. My name is Shannon Wright. I am a Regional Director with the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. I'm not the Regional Director for the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission. There are 5 of us. First of all, we want to thank you for coming tonight. This is a very important issue and it's evident by your attendance, and so we thank you very much for coming. Can I ask you, do we have any representatives or officials from the city of Kissimmee or Osceola County or any legislators in the audience? I'd like to recognize you and thank you. Okay. Next, I'd like to thank Osceola County for allowing us to have this meeting here. This is a wonderful facility, and their staff have really stepped up and helped us out, and we very much appreciate them for allowing us to hold this meeting. Without further ado, can we please stand and say a pledge of allegiance before we start the meeting? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much for that. And I would like to introduce Kip Froelich, and Kip is our Director of Habitat, Species, and Conservation.
Thank you, Shannon. Appreciate the introduction, and mostly I appreciate so many people being here. So the Division of Habitat and Species Conservation is one of our many divisions in FWC. It's our second largest after law enforcement. We do a lot of things, diverse things that folks in the division I'm director of do, but one of them is the Aquatic Plant Management Program, of which we're here to talk about tonight. And so we do have a number of FWC staff all around the room and up front. So in addition to the division I'm director of, we also have the Division of Hunting and Game Management. Morgan Richardson is here. We have a number of staff from the Division of Freshwater Fish, including Marty Mann, who you're going to hear from a little bit in a few minutes. We do have a number of sections, the Aquatic Plant Management section that's in the division. Matt Phillips is the section leader, and you've probably seen other staff, many of which are more local, folks that work with stakeholders on the lakes that you might know and are in your community, and others of us that have traveled down from Tallahassee to be here tonight. The fact that we have so many staff here at different levels and different duties, I hope it at least gives one message that we find this a very important issue. And you know, this issue is always important in terms of how we manage our freshwater systems. But last December at a commission meeting, our commissioners heard a lot of stakeholders and people from the public that they came to our meeting. We do have a sort of open period where you can bring up any topic. And a number of them brought up concerns with how we are managing our freshwater systems, particularly lakes, but also rivers, in terms of aquatic plants, in terms of managing invasive aquatic plants. They brought up issues of pesticides and many different issues at our commission meeting in December. So we committed at that point to organize some effort where we could get out and meet more with the public and have more listening sessions to learn more than we could in that short time in December. What some of these issues are, what some of the current concerns are, and maybe share some information from our perspective as well. So we're going to have a number of these around the state. Y'all are the lucky guinea pigs, first meeting tonight, so appreciate you. If we're a little bit rusty, that haven't done this meeting before, but we're going to go to other meetings around the state. And we will also have this at our commission meeting on February 21st, this time in Gainesville, and this time the topic will be on the agenda for the commissioners to dive a little deeper into the topic of aquatic plant management. I just want to thank a couple of our partners for being here, because while we're charged by the legislature to manage aquatic plants as the primary state agency, we don't work in a vacuum. Partners are extraordinarily important. Tonight here in the room, we've got folks from the South Florida Water Management District that we work closely with, and we have folks from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers that we also work in partnership with on managing waters and plants, and we have folks from the University of Florida, which are very, very valuable partners, particularly in the realm of research on aquatic plant management. So I really want to thank the folks that have made from their agencies and from the university to be here tonight. To also, their point is to listen to what questions and concerns and issues that come up. And so with that, we did get a non-FWC facilitator who called the meeting to order. I'm going to turn it back over to Perrin Ross, who has been hired for this night to help us run this meeting. Perrin?
Thank you, Kip. Yes, my name is Dr. Perrin Ross. I recently retired from the University of Florida. I'm not FWC staff. My role here is to help you have an effective and efficient meeting. Let me lay out for you some simple operating rules that I would ask all of you to agree to abide by. A couple of simple ones. The restrooms are located out to my left-hand side and through a door. I've been asked to tell you please don't spit on the floor. Please would you put your phones on silent mode. If you do need to take a call, if you take it outside and not disrupt us, we would appreciate it. This meeting is being both videoed and taped, and is actually live streaming as we speak through the Osceola County streaming process. The facility requires that we must leave the building by 8:30. They have staff working overtime to accommodate us here, and their time runs out at 8:30. So we will have to finish quite strictly on time and vacate the room promptly when we finish the meeting. We've distributed programs. I think everybody should have one of these to look at. It's pretty straightforward. A very brief introduction from FWC, a little over 2 hours of time to hear from you, the public, and then we thought it would be useful to give FWC about 20 minutes at the end to respond to what they've heard. In order to speak, if you've not already done so, please fill out one of these speaker cards. I have taken these speaker cards in the order that they were presented to me. At the moment, this is number 21. If anybody else wants to speak, please get a card and rush it up here. Each speaker will have an allotted period of time. Doing the quick arithmetic on our available time and the number of speakers, I believe we can very comfortably give each speaker 5 minutes. So Gus, if you would set up our system for 5 minutes. When you come to the podium, which we'll turn around in a minute, you would, thank you. When you come to the podium, you'll see a little set of lights. Other way. Got it. It'll be green when you start. When you have 1 minute left, it will go yellow, and when your time is up, it will go red. When it goes red, we really want you to stop speaking. We would like to accommodate everybody who wants to speak and also be able to answer your questions. So if you continue to speak after the light turns red, I have a secret button under here. When I push that button, a trapdoor will open underneath your feet and you will be delivered promptly out into the middle of the lake nearby. No, seriously, in order to give everybody a fair shake and everybody a fair time to express their views, I would ask everybody to be prompt on their timing. As I call on each speaker, I will also indicate who the next couple of speakers are. I've reserved a few seats up front if you would care to come forward and be ready, or just prepare yourself in your seat where you're sitting, but I think probably best to come forward. That way we can exchange speakers quickly and have an efficient flow of information from you. You can certainly ask questions. I think we have a fairly liberal amount of time, so if there are questions which can be easily answered by the staff present, we'll accommodate that, but that is included in your speaking time. It's included in your 5 minutes. So, really, we're thinking that the role here is certainly to try and provide clarity to you, but primarily to hear from you. Although at the end of the meeting, FWC will try to sum up what they have heard and try and address any broad questions at that time. I understand that some of you are deeply concerned about these issues, and sometimes from different perspectives. And so we all have strong feelings and occasionally use strong words. I certainly am not going to discourage that. I encourage you to express your passion, but I will suggest that if you're going to efficiently communicate, a certain amount of courtesy and respect for each other is required. So even though we have different views and even though we feel strongly on some of this, I will ask that you attempt to keep your language moderate and courteous. I will not tolerate any personal attacks on staff or other speakers. I ask you to be reasonably orderly. I don't think it's necessary to applaud speakers. That will just use up more time. I think we can all treat each other with some respect and hear these deep issues that affect us all, which we all have some concerns about. I have no point of view on this. I am required to be impartial and fair, and I will be. But I can tell you, I'm a hunter, a fisherman. I live near a big water body, so just like you, I understand how important these issues are. Keep your remarks focused and clear. If you can cover your remarks by saying what she just said, that would be great. But I think we have sufficient time that we don't need to skimp anybody on their time. In addition to the video and the tape record, Danielle Kirkman here is going to be keeping a continuous note taking so that staff have a record of exactly what you say. They really are paying attention. Kip is here to listen, Matt is here to listen, other staff who actively conduct this program are here to listen, and this is your opportunity to speak to them. We don't expect to answer all your questions. We certainly don't expect to resolve this question here tonight. As Kip mentioned, we have 4 additional meetings. This will come up at the commission meeting. This one's a little bit gnarly and it's going to take a while. So I think if we all approach it with goodwill, integrity and courtesy, but also with the passion we feel, then we can advance this important issue. So in summary, if you would use the speaker cards, and I'll call you on that. Any more to come? No? Yep, if you could collect those up, please. How many is that? 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Yeah, we can still accommodate. We can accommodate 5 minutes each, as long as nobody messes up the transition. So we can do that. Are these reasonable rules of conduct?
Yes, sir.
Is this a reasonable way to conduct ourselves? Do I have your agreement to do this? Yes. Thank you. Appreciate that very much. I'm very pleased to then call upon the first speaker. No? Oh, I'm sorry. Push. Need to read the program like everybody else. Sorry about that. To get us started, we're hearing from Marty Mann, just to give us a broad picture of what's going on here, what we're concerned about. Thank you, Marty.
Thank you, Perrin. Again, like Perrin said, my name is Marty Mann. I'm with the Division of Freshwater Fisheries Management. I've been with the Commission since 1995, and I'm a part of a team that works on the Kissimmee Chain of Lakes, management of the Kissimmee Chain of Lakes. And we've been doing it, I've been doing it here for about 20 years. Initially, this meeting was set up to follow up for hydrilla plans to treat hydrilla this spring on the Kissimmee Chain of Lakes. And the agenda changed, and now we're going to have this listening session. But before we got into the listening session, I thought it would be a good idea that if we had some things that we could keep in mind and keep in context so that maybe that can help us with our questions and answers. Okay, so why do we manage the aquatic resources here in Florida? First of all, we have a mission to manage fish and wildlife resources for their long-term well-being and the benefit of people. That's the mission statement. It is our responsibility to make sure that is done. In addition to that responsibility, we also have legal requirements that the legislature has mandated of us, guidance on what to do with aquatic plant management. And we have 2 statutes there, and we also have some information in the Florida Administrative Code that we're to follow. And if you're interested in more detail about the statutes or the code after the meeting, we'd be happy to provide that information for you to answer those questions. Okay, so we have some characteristics of Florida's aquatic resources that we need to keep in mind. Florida water bodies, first of all, are very shallow basins. For example, here on Lake Toho, the mean depth is 7 feet. Up in the Midwest, we have reservoirs that are much, much deeper, and that limits a lot of the growth that we see up there. But here in Florida, we have very shallow water basins that can grow vegetation from shore to shore. We also have naturally nutrient-rich soils that these lakes sit on. A lot of Florida is covered up with phosphatic deposits, so it's just naturally fertile, and we have that. And then because of those reasons, we have lots of aquatic vegetation growing in our systems. Couple that with the subtropical climate, we get lots of rainfall year-round, up to 59 inches a year on average, and we almost have a year-round growing season for plants. If anybody cuts their grass in the winter, most of you probably from time to time need to cut our grass. That doesn't happen in Ohio or Michigan, but it certainly happens here in Florida. Whoop, apologize. Okay, some other things to keep in mind that affects our resources and why we need to be involved and intervene, especially here on the Kissimmee Chain of Lakes. We have modified the way water functions here. We put water control structures on all our lakes, and we regulate them, and primarily for flood control. And if you look at this graph down here, this actually is of Lake Josephine, which is found in Highlands County, but if you took that graph and the trend of that graph and you superimposed it on any lake in the Kissimmee Chain, it would look very similar. Here on the Kissimmee Chain, we have fluctuation, used to have fluctuation before flood control of up to 10 feet within a given year, and that's what you see here early on. And then after flood control came into place, you see the stabilized water levels. Here on the Kissimmee Chain, it only fluctuates about 3 foot in a year, and we don't no longer have these floods, and we no longer have these drought conditions. And that was the lifeblood of the habitat in the lake, how it managed itself. During floods, you have a cleansing, a natural cleansing that occurs, all the material deposited in the floodplain, and that's why you oftentimes see a lot of farms occur around lakes, because lots of nutrients are found in the floodplain. During droughts, the sun bakes it. There's a lot of other biological activities that occur during a drought, and this is the way Mother Nature used to clean herself up. We don't allow that to happen anymore. Another problem has always been a problem, and that is Florida's a very popular state. I think it's the 3rd largest state in the United States population-wise now, and it's projected to only get more dense. If you've just driving on Neptune Road here, and if you live around this town, you know you can't get home from work very, very quickly. And if you're on I-4, you know that's a nightmare. So people moving into Florida, moving around our lakes, contributes to our problems. With water management and urbanization, we see lots of nutrient enrichment. So in addition to having natural nutrient-rich soils, we add to it. We build golf courses, we build homes, we have farms all around the lakes, and all of this contributes runoff to the lakes, which adds lots of nutrients. So this is kind of like a perfect storm where plants can really do quite well here. So that brings us to invasive plants. All these conditions that I talked about do well with our natives can do well under those conditions too. However, invasive plants tend to do even better because they have some things about them that give them some advantages. First of all, they're not native to Florida, so a lot of times they don't have the natural type predators that may keep them down. They also have extremely fast growth rates. So hydrilla, for example, an exotic plant can grow up to 2 inches a day under ideal conditions. They have competitive advantages. Hydrilla is another example that can luxury consume phosphorus. That means it can take up phosphorus when it's plentiful, hold it, and wait till it needs it because phosphorus is not plentiful. And our native plants can't do that. Of course, all this has this fast growth and this competitive advantages all have a negative impact on our native habitats. And what happens is that area that you just saw that was somewhat open with a diversity of plants, left unchecked, no management occurring, can have complete domination of certain species. This happens to be water hyacinths that took over, and it happens a lot faster than people realize. It can happen quite fast. And it requires intervention and management. So what do we have to manage these invasive plants? There's 4 main tools that we use. We have biological tools. Probably you've heard of grass carp before. That's an example of biological management. This is a hydrilla weevil in the picture in the slide. So those are biological. There's other ones, but those are biological management tools. We also have physical tools, prescribed fire. Fire used to be really prevalent here in Florida, but it's not nearly as prevalent because of urbanization. No one wants to have a fire near their home or to have the embers land on their car or their home. So fire is somewhat limited. We do drawdowns on our lakes to manage plants. I think Robin Reservoir, for instance, near Palatka, that's done on an annual basis to control vegetation. We have mechanical control. The mechanical control I'm talking about is like up here with a harvester. We use harvesters primarily to pick up and manage tussocks, which are floating islands of vegetation usually associated with a lot of organic material, and it's the best tool by far to get rid of those kinds of plant communities. And then lastly, we have chemical means, which is the herbicide application on aquatic plants. So one thing we wanted to make sure we also expressed was that early on, we always try to include stakeholders in the process, but many, many years ago, I don't think we did quite as good a job as we do today. There's no doubt, like I said, I've been